Welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Next month is the Rhode Island GOP. Well, this month is the Rhode Island GOP's convention to elect its new leadership on March 25th, which includes the party chair and a number of other leadership positions. Earlier in February, Sue Cienki announced she won't seek re-election for another term as party chair, but is instead going to be running for the National Committee Woman position. One of the candidates that is going to be running to be her successor and be the new chair of the party is Joe Powers, who most recently was the GOP nominee for Rhode Island Senate District 26 in 2022. Joe, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's great to have you on. Great to have you on for the first time as well. Maybe one of many, depending on if you win the election. My first question, it's a general one. Why do you want to be party chair?
Well, I'll tell you what, Ray. I'll give you the short version of it so I don't bore you. I've actually been that type of guy that was always paying attention to politics, even though I never actually dipped my toe in the pond. I finally got myself to the point where I realized being involved is the only way to actually, kind of create change of any kind. So I did put my name in the hat to run last year during 2022 Senate race in District 26. I learned a ton while I did that. And part of what I learned is what makes the wheels turn as far as the politics. And I'm realizing, and I've been in business for over 20 years, a lot of leadership roles inside of it. And I'm realizing there's not much difference running a business as it is compared to running a party or running a country or a city or anything of that sort. So part of what I did is I saw what was happening in the party. I saw the goods, the bads, and everything you can possibly imagine in between and take that for whatever it is. And I saw the leadership they had in place, which was Sue Cienki, Chairwoman Sue Cienki, which, by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say what an amazing job she's actually done in her time. I wish her nothing but the best in her National Committee Woman position she's going after now. But she did an amazing job, and I saw that she had built an amazing foundation. And when I found out, like you, last month when she decided to step aside, I thought to myself, there might be an opportunity there for me to help out with the leadership skills and that I've actually acquired over the years. I'm not going to say I took it lightly, but I'm not saying also too that I was too deep into it. But I was approached by a couple of people and said, hey, what are your thoughts? Why don't you take a look at this? And after talking with my wife, talking with a few of my mentors, I finally decided this is what I was going to do, because I know the foundation that Chairwoman Cienki has actually created is going to allow us to continue to build on a legacy that she's already put together, to be able to recruit more people and bring more people in and make it a more solid party moving forward into the future.
Speaking of Chairwoman Cienki, have you spoken with her about your run?
I have. Yeah, I've talked to her a couple times. Ray, I'm a big believer and an advocate in coaching and mentorship. And I always look to people who have been there, done that, seen it, have the t-shirt to prove it. And I spoke to her regarding the position, what she thought the focus should be on, my qualities, whether or not she think that I'd be a good fit for this or not. So I definitely reached out to her and spoke to her in regards to a broad range of information.
One of the other potential candidates you might be running up against is Giovanni Cicione, who was the former party chair from, I believe, 2007 to 2011.
Yeah.
What qualifications do you have that make you more qualified for the position than former Chairman Cicione?
Yeah, and that's the white elephant. I'm one of those guys that I know what I'm bringing to the table. I know what my abilities and my skill set is, and what Gio has to bring to the table is the guy's been in business for a while, his own sort of business. But more importantly, I know what I have the ability to bring to the table. I'm not a type of person that's being from the business world of making somebody else look bad to thinking you're making yourself look better. So I'll only speak to what I know, which is what I have to bring to the table, which is leadership, foundation, team building, recruiting, things that I want to focus on to build this business, this entire business up of politics that we have here in Rhode Island for the future. I don't plan on looking back. I plan on looking forward with everything, and I don't want to bring anything backwards. I just want to go forward with things.
Just taking a little step backward, though, we do have to give a little bit of an autopsy for 2022 because it was expected to be a red wave, but Rhode Island didn't see a lot of those results trickle down as they did in maybe New York or even California, surprisingly, based on those party demographics.
Yeah.
From your perspective as both a candidate running for the party leadership and someone who ran in that election year, what happened?
Well, we lost. If that's any, that's the short answer. You know, what we did gain from all of that, even though the Rhode Island, we didn't prosper, and actually everywhere across the country, we didn't prosper. The smart folks who ran their campaigns, which we had some very good campaigns. We have a very deep bench of candidates, which is also another reason why I want to run. I want to be able to help facilitate those people in their runs on the next time if they do choose to do so. But the smart person takes the information that they gained from the loss and creates a game plan to move forward. Take everything that you saw, all the data that we were able to collect. I mean, we had the most amount of candidates that Rhode Island has ever seen running the Republican Party. We had the most amount of money coming into Rhode Island than we've ever seen. There was so many different positives that actually, happened, that it would be a waste for us to steer clear of the data that we actually collected moving forward. Where we lost, that's part of the data collection. That's what we're actually going through right now. And we're devising a game plan to move forward. And my intentions is to take that information and actually put it into practice and create a real system, so that it can be followed from generations and generation to kind of change, stem the tide and change the direction of Rhode Island, and kind of bring it back to make sure that people understand that in the state of Rhode Island, to me, it just makes sense to be a Republican, to move in that direction. And that's where the message is going to come out.
I'm hearing a lot of Republicans after 2022 saying, oh, we lost badly on the mail ballots. We have to beat the Democrats at their own game and ballot harvest. It's legal. Let's do it. New York and California showed it. Is that on your radar if elected party chair?
So here's what the smart people do is they use the tools that are presented to them, and then they make the tweaks as they go about it. There's no doubt that the mail-in ballots, early voting, and all of that definitely played a part in it. And, kudos to the Democratic Party, who actually has been able to facilitate that in a good way. If we don't like it, there's not much we can do about it unless we're in a position of power. So it's time to go to the sheath and pull out the tools that we need in order to make the changes in order to make it happen. So part of that is going to be use the tools that are available to us. Now, whether that's the early voting, whether it's the mail-in ballot, you kind of have to use what you got available to you in order to get yourself to the point you can change it. And that's not even to say in the future that it will change. But for right now, what we need to do is we need to embrace the opportunities that we have available to us and use them to our benefit.
In Rhode Island particularly, even if the party does operate a good, solid mail ballot operation, there's still another looming problem, which is the overall deficit in supporters. I hate to armchair quarterback, but Democrats, they get the union vote, they go to the nursing homes, they get the old people vote, they get the young people vote, they have the strong support from minority groups. As party chair, how would you address that deficit?
Yeah, so it's all about the numbers, right? It's the idea of actually being able to break it down. I know in the state of Rhode Island, there's north of 721,000 voters. 45% of those are, 41% of them are Democrat. 14% are Republican, but there's 45% of them are unaffiliated. That's an exorbitant amount of money. One thing that I do have is in my campaigning, I went grassroots in my campaigning when I was my bid for Senate. Is I quite honestly went to every single door and knocked on the door. And I would say 90%. My wife, who's more of a numbers nerd than I am, she kept a rolling tally in her head, and a good portion of those, if not the majority, she claimed 90%. I don't know. She claimed that, 90% of those people told us they were Republican. They just don't affiliate themselves with the party. So that's where our target needs to be. I mean, that out of 721,000, that's 325,000 voters who are sitting on the fence. Those are the people that we need to make sure that we target. Again, it's going to come down to understanding what's going on in Rhode Island, what the future really holds for Rhode Island if we keep following the course that we're going now, and not be, cowtail to, oh, this is just the way it is in Rhode Island. That's another reason why I ran, is I'm so tired of people saying, well, that's just how it is in Rhode Island. I'm like, well, why? Let's change the way we do things. For 90 years, we've had one party. It's been a one-party rule. That shouldn't be in any way situation or form. I mean, take a look at, any type of business that you have. You should always have coaches and mentors that help you along the way. There's got to be some sort of a give and a take, a yin and a yang, an up and a down, a dark and a light. If you don't have that, it's the one way the entire time, and you're not going to grow. in doing so. So, getting the message out and going after the unaffiliated, the people, to get them to understand that right now, it just makes sense to be a Republican in Rhode Island. I can't get off of that statement because I think it's absolutely true. And that's our job to get that message to them.
It would certainly be your job if elected in the 2024 election cycle, which would be that first election cycle where we see your ability as party chair if elected on March 25th. What's your overall vision and game plan for 2024, whether it's specific issues, specific offices on your radar?
Yeah. So what we have going on right now is, of course, is the big looming light is the special election that's coming up for CD1. What our overall is obviously is to identify the absolute proper candidates. And I think this is going to be an uphill battle for us as we start, because CD1 is, referred to as, Democratic country. It's a very heavy Democrat policy. That's how, Ciccione was able to hold on to that seat for so long. It will be an uphill battle, but it'll also allow us an opportunity to utilize the data that we have to help us identify the absolute right candidate. What does that mean for 2024? It means a ton, because while we do it, we collect more data as we go forward to actually make our tweaks and our changes so that the offices that do come back up in 2024, which will be General Assembly coming up in 2024, it'll give us the opportunity to use the data we have to identify the absolute right candidates. Because like I said, we've got a very, very, very deep bench of extremely talented, smart, intelligent candidates who are ready to rock and roll for 2024 already. And now we're just going to have that and a little bit more extra information to help them along the way and get them into where we need to get them.
In your backyard in the city of Cranston, there's going to be a mayoral election. As you've seen in 2022, Cranston, it kind of shifted just a little bit more blue than the Republicans expected. Mayor Fung, I believe, only won it by 3.3% in the CD2 race. And then the city council is now Democrat. What's the game plan for Cranston? I know you can't speak for the city committee, but as party chair.
Well, I'll tell you what, and that's a great question, Raymond. Here's what it comes down to is by structure alone, being chairman of the Republican Party in the state of Rhode Island, to me, is sometimes people refer to it as just a figurehead type of person. I'm not that kind of person. Anytime that I've taken a leadership role, I am what I like to refer to is a mastermind kind of guy. And what I mean by that is I use the intelligence of everybody else around me. I subscribe to the camp that I don't have to be, and nor do I want to be the smartest person in the room. I actually encompass as many people into our conversation and decision making as possible in order to make the right decision moving forward. That being said, utilizing the local town committees, the chairs and all of the committees, we have to have a rallying cry. We have to get it to the point where we have everybody on the same page and utilizing, and I'll use Cranston for instance. Yeah, we did make a little shift, but there's a very strong committee here in Cranston that I can't wait to tap into to be able to have a conversation with them and let them bring their ideas to the table. We can start having one unison message throughout to help broaden our spectrum. And there's a lot more Republicans in Cranston than most people think. Trust me, I've shaken their hands, I've knocked on their doors, I've run from their dogs, from their front yards. So I can't wait to tap into the strengths and the intelligence that we have in the local communities, and especially in Cranston.
On that same ballot in 2024 will also be the presidential election.
Yeah.
It's tough time to, I'm going to be honest, Joe. It's a tough time to be a Republican right now, especially with the primary that's likely going to get very ugly. You have candidates already announced, like former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, former President Donald Trump. We're expecting to see Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida jump in, former Vice President Mike Pence, and a few others. A lot of well, let me not say a lot of, but there are Republicans being very vocal about moving on from former President Trump and supporting a younger face or new blood like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Do you?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's the $1 million question right now, is because first off, we don't know. We can speculate and speculate all you want, but curiosity killed the cat. To find out who's actually running, I am a non-emotional decision maker. I wait for all of the intel and the information to come in before I make any decisions. And even then, it's not totally into my camp. It's going to be what the party in the state of Rhode Island actually decides to do as far as who we're going to be backing in the primary and such. I can't wait to see the robust, bench of qualified candidates who are going to step up. I think they all have some great qualities. What those qualities are and how it aligns with what it is that our game plan is moving forward, that's going to help us in our decision making. I don't make any knee-jerk reactions. I apologize. I'm not skirting the issue. I don't make those decisions right off the bat. I sit and I watch and I pay attention and I diagnose. I take notes. I got a page full over here, legal pad, just notes upon notes upon notes and
So
conversations that I have.
too early to decide.
Too early to make that prediction right now to figure out who it is going to be.
Got it.
Yeah.
This is looking even further in 2024. The demographics are changing in this country, in Rhode Island, and just throughout the country as a whole. Gen Z is going to be voting at record numbers, even higher than 2022, 2020, and 2018 saw. And even voters from minority groups as well, they're voting at record rates too. Typically, those groups overwhelmingly vote Democrat. It's been an issue for the GOP for years to appeal to those voters. How will you attempt to do so in Rhode Island as party chair?
Well, first off, it's exciting. I can't wait to have a new batch of voters that are coming out because I'll tell you what, it's with age isn't always experience. And when you have younger people coming in, you end up with fresher ideas and new ideas on how they come out. Which way they lean as far as how they vote. Well, the only thing that we can have control over is the message that we put out in order to attract them. Is there anything specifically that we're going to do in regards to that? That remains to be seen. I know we have a game plan that we're starting to put together now on how to attract those people. But I will say I'm extremely excited about this next batch and this next wave of, my kids are at the age right now where my youngest, he's 19 years old. So he just registered to vote last year. And it's fun watching him go through the process. It's the only thing that we can control right now is going to be the message that we put out. So that's what's going to be our focus on what it is we're going to be saying and how it is. Again, when you mentioned earlier that it was tough being Republican, I don't want it to be easy, and nobody said it would. The idea if you're doing things that are easy, if people give you free advice, there's no value to it. If when you work for something, there's a little bit more appreciation for what you got. And I'm ready to be appreciative of everything because we're planning to work and I'm planning to put together a game plan that is going to get this message out. That's going to make these Gen Z voters turn around and say, you know what, it just makes sense to be a Republican in Rhode Island.
Do you see any things that the party stands for that could turn off those voters? For example, I hear from people in my age group, they get mad that the Republican Party doesn't support things like gay marriage or taking climate change seriously or healthcare. I'm not saying that that's how the overall party feels, but that's what I'm personally hearing anecdotally when I ask my peers in my age group about things generally in politics.
Yeah, and then again, right, and that's where our messaging has to actually to change. To sit there and combat, yes, we do, no, we don't, yes, we do, no, we don't. That's on us to actually make those changes in the party moving forward to get our message out better. Some people are just better at getting a message out, and that's what we need to focus on. Once we get ourselves to the point where we put together that better message to get them to understand, it's just going to be done from a position of intelligence. We're not going to sit there and knee-jerk react and say, no, and not defend. I think it's time to play offense. I think it's time for the Republican Party to step up and actually start getting their messaging together, centralize their messaging, start the recruiting properly, identify exactly what the real Republican Party is. Because quite honestly, when you sit back and you actually find out what really is going on with the Republican Party, people are going to learn that we are the working people's party. We are the blue collar party. We are not the elites. We are not the leftist elitists who just think they're going to make rules for thee and not for me routine. They're going to realize that we're actually the ones who are actually here for them. I had a friend of mine once said, and he said, you can use this if you want. He says, when you think about it, the Republican Party is the only one that has you in it. And it took me a second. I realized he was being funny, but Republican is the only one with you in it. And I was like, you know what? That makes absolute sense to me. So that's going to be our messaging, is making sure they understand who we are, and time for us to go on offense on that.
Two quick non-political topics. You're a RIC graduate. You're a RIC student. You attended RIC, I should say.
I did.
I always love to ask alumni this. I'm actually currently in our office at the Anchor at RIC. I'm a current RIC student, so I always love to ask alumni about this. What was your time like?
My time was different than what most people is. See, I served in the military for 4 years prior to. Uncle Sam actually took care of my college for me. So my experience going into college was slightly different than what most people is, and I enjoyed every second of it. I went to school for broadcast journalism, so I worked as at the radio station WXIN FM, and I used to get in trouble because I used to go down to Donovan Hall. And where they used to have a radio in there, and I'd go in and change the radio station over to my show and then take the knobs off and walk away and close the door behind me, and they couldn't change the radio station. But I worked in the radio. I had fun. But again, I was 21 by the time I went to college. So I was that guy, the older guy at school. I did everything the exact thing I was supposed to do. I followed Hulk Hogan's rules of engagement, which is, took my vitamins and said my prayers. I was a good boy when I was at school. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. And ironically, having people in your class that weren't from Rhode Island, and it was kind of fun having them here too, and getting to show them around what an amazing place Rhode Island is, and kind of showcase and be a tour guide for all of them. So it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Glad to hear, and it sure is. It's an amazing institution that I personally wish would get more resources from the state. And I also want to say thank you for your service, by the way. And my final question, it's tradition on the show. You may or may not have heard me ask this question to other people before. So I like to save this for the end. In your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
What I think Rhode Island is best known for. Are we talking politically, or are we just talking broad scope?
In general, whatever you think is, best fits the question.
Here's one of the luxuries that I've had over the last 10 years is to travel all over this country. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I always get the same question: where are you from? And I say Rhode Island. And the majority of the people say, oh, I've always wanted to visit New York. And I have to correct them and tell them that, no, it's actually a state. We're not talking Long Island, we're talking Rhode Island. And once they start looking it up, it's our coastline. Without question, the Ocean State's the perfect name for us. I was in the Coast Guard for 4 years. I grew up on the other side of Cranston in Edgewood. So I was on the water on a daily basis. I was that type of guy that needed his vitamin C, SEA. And I think our coastline will rival pretty much any of the other greats out there, because we have everything from beaches to rocky coastlines to amazing scenery that's out there, some of the most old school areas. So I would say the coastline and the water attractions that we have in Rhode Island, I think are the best.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that point. Definitely, Rhode Island's very known for its ocean. We're the Ocean State for a reason. Yeah, Joe, I want to thank you so much for giving me your time for this interview. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Anytime. And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. If you want to see future episodes as soon as they're posted on this channel, please click the subscribe button down below and the post notification bell icon to the right of it. I'm Raymond Bakari, and I'll see you next time.